everybody. I see Joe is already out there, and we've got 4 other people there with him. And I know there's going to be some more coming along. Happy Friday, everybody. It's good to be here. And Angela made it. I was so glad to see that she made it. She's been taking a coursework this week to become a peer support specialist, and it's been pretty grueling. And I thought she might come in, but I thought she might be a little bit late, but she was right on time. Hey, Angela, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm a little bit tired.
Hey, there's Bree. Yeah, I can imagine. So you spent like was it like 8 hours a day pretty much?
Yeah, a full 8 hours a day, which is difficult for me in front of the Zoom.
Yes.
And because even, I've worked from home for a long time, but I can set my own schedule for the
Right.
most part. There are certain things that need to be done on certain times, certain days. But for the most part, I can like batch my work into sections. And so I have, I'm more free to do things with my time.
Yeah.
And so sitting in place in front of the camera, for Zoom, it was a bit grueling.
Yeah.
With 20 other people, and from all across the state of Idaho, and it was interesting. It was interesting. And then we had a little test.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So. Yeah.
It's different, isn't it, having doing a class online rather than actually being there in person with the instructor and everything.
Yeah, I think for this kind of stuff, it definitely helps to do the in person as an adult learner. Because the physicality of being with other people. So yeah, it was. It was long. It was very long, and I got to see a little bit of some of my character, things come out. I was getting a bit impatient on some days at some people and stuff. I was good though. I don't think anybody noticed, and and I wasn't snappy at anybody. Although on one day, one person, they ask us in the morning what we do for self-care, or what we're going to do for self-care, and so somebody said that she's a prayer girl, so she prays, and then and then one of the facilitators said oh man, or something to that, and so then when they got to me, I'm like, well, I'm a science girl, so I science, and I
you really said that?
I do, and I'm like, I do the physiological sigh, and then I went through and explained what the physiological sigh is, and that so that was my only thing of anything regarding beliefs actually at all. So nobody there knew I was a heathen. And to be honest, there wasn't a lot of the faith talk. Most of it, people seem to keep it to themselves. There were a few things and some nods from when somebody said, their faith's important to them, which is fine, but this was a state certification is what we're getting, and so so most people seem to be pretty good with that. But after a week of it, now I'm like, I don't know if this is really for me, so who knows. We'll see if I'm just like tired and worn out from being in front of a computer for so long and pretending to be really enthused.
Yeah. I know it can be difficult sometimes. You got people in class that will be asking the crazy questions, and it's like, oh, that didn't happen to my brother John. That's not the way it was with me, and this can't possibly be, and it's like, well, you had a unique situation, but in general, this is what works.
Or like the wild hypotheticals, that you're like, I really don't know that. I mean, I guess it's a possibility in a world of all possibilities, but So it was interesting, and they really hammered on the no, they were good about the different types of people we would be working with, but there was a lot more about putting your hair up and carrying around tea tree oil and watching out for bed bugs than I expected.
Really? Are you
Yeah.
serious?
So,
Oh, wow, some
yeah.
real practical stuff.
So it covered a lot of different things in this class. But yeah, it was a lot, and we'll see what I do with it. I don't know. I think if anything at this point, I'm like, no, I should just go back and get further. A master's degree or something, but then there's part of me that's like, most of the schools are 10 years behind, the things that are currently, working to help people right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, that's what you got from me tonight, is
There
that my brain's a little bit, dead, and I don't know what I'm going to do with my life.
I
What
understand
I want to
completely.
be when I grow up. So
Yeah, I hear you. I don't know either. So before we get into the topic today, the topic is going to be about procrastination. It's taken from a reading from Beyond Belief, Agnostic Musings for 12-Step Life. And it talks about procrastination as it relates to step 4, but also just kind of in general procrastination. So that could be a good topic. But before we get to that, I wanted to just go through a few things. A couple of quick announcements. One announcement, and this is not self-promotion, but on Sunday, July the 18th at 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, I'll be participating in the Lopsided Triangle Group's series on anonymity in social media. They're going to have a group of podcasters and YouTubers who will talk about how they manage to maintain anonymity while providing content on social media. So that'll be really interesting. I'm going to actually kind of I've been thinking a lot about it, to be honest with you, about this whole anonymity thing, because I've decided I'm just going to do my own thing. My view on this whole anonymity thing, and I can never pronounce the word, but is that, for public relations for AA, I think it's a great idea that we don't have some personality that represents all of AA out there promoting AA. But just as an individual person in recovery, I'm going to live my life the way I want to and talk about my recovery the way I want to, wherever I want to. And when I do that, I don't feel like I'm promoting AA. And that's just the way I feel about it. So I'm going to try to find a really diplomatic way to talk about that and explain it in a way that might make sense.
Unless you procrastinate, and then you're going to say exactly that, right?
Exactly. I don't want to piss people off. I really don't. And I'm sorry. I mean, it was so much easier when I just fell in line, was an anonymous all the time. But anyway, I can't do that. So anyway, that's going to happen. It's going to be July 18th, 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. That's 10 o'clock Central. And the Zoom ID I will post in the chat along with the password or passcode. Hey, Bree, I'll see you tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon at Greg's house. We're having a party. How about that?
I know. I was just complaining that I didn't get an invite. Yeah. And I think Greg's the best, but I am booked tomorrow. So double booked.
He is in Bonner Springs, Kansas, which is a nice community, not too far outside of Kansas City. But anyway, there's the information. The 3 Legacies is the password.
Okay.
So we're going to have bratwurst. That's right. And bringing side dishes or something. All right. Anyway, so that's that. That's the Lopsided Triangle Group. I'm looking forward to that. I'm a little nervous about it, but I think it'll be fun.
Okay.
Then,
cool.
Yeah, cool. My man Miller, post the day and time again, John. Okay, the day is July 18th. I will just post it right here instead of just saying it. There you go. July 18th. 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, 10 o'clock p.m. Central, 11 o'clock Eastern. Hey, there's somebody from London, England in the room today. Welcome. I know it's like 1 o'clock in the morning where you are. So so nice of you to be up. Who knows why you're up, but I'm glad that you are. It's nice to have you here. The other day I did a British accent for my wife, and she told me it was she told me it was the worst British accent she ever heard.
Nice.
I won't try to do it here, but it's something I'm going to try to work on for some reason.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, it can be difficult,
Yeah.
particularly, if you're trying to be funny.
Yeah.
But I was in a community theater play that I had to have an English accent,
Uh-huh.
and then at the second part of it, I had a different part, and I had to have a Cockney accent
Oh
with that
no.
one, which is different. And
Yeah.
so I had to have two coaches
Oh
to
my
work
God.
on it, and of course now I can't. I won't do either for anyone, but at the time, it was possible. So I can't see anything in my future why I would need to learn it again.
No,
But
me, me either.
yeah,
I don't
and
know why
apparently
I
your
was
wife
doing
agrees with me on that. So I don't think
that.
anyone should.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
Pete's working. That's why he's up tonight, and he's
okay.
listening while he's working. Good for you.
Nice,
Good for
nice. I
you.
was gonna bring it around to sleep hygiene or something, but it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like he's doing okay. All right.
Yeah. Good.
So yeah, so you had that.
So that's that.
You said the English accent,
Yeah,
and
I will not be
before
doing the
that,
presentation with an English accent.
yeah, before that you
Then
were gonna
oh, the
next
international
announcement.
conference.
Yep.
Next announcement: International Conference of Secular AA. We talked about that last week too. You can register for that now at secularaa.org. Is where you'll find all the information. They're using an outside vendor called Ticket Leap, I think. And you can either create an account there, or there's actually a way you can just search for Secular AA on the Ticket Leap site and then go in there without creating an account. But either way, you can register there. And you can also find the link for the hotel as well. So Joe says I got the same response when I did it for someone in Birmingham. I think he's talking about Birmingham, England. He tried to do it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's always a lot of fun too. Okay, so that's that. And another thing I just wanted to mention, I thought you might be late today, and I was trying to find some things to talk about, just take up some time, and I was looking at some of the podcasts that are out right now that are kind of specifically tailored for secular AA, and
Yeah.
it's pretty incredible. First of all, there is the Secular AA podcast, which you can find at secularaa.buzzsprout.com. But you can also find it on Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify. If you just Google Secular AA podcast, you'll find it.
Okay.
And they've got some great episodes there. All the recordings from past conferences and so forth are on there. And they're continuing to add new episodes all the time. The speakers from the Sunday speaker meetings are on there. So
Nice.
it's really a great resource. So, if you need a meeting or something, I just think it's fantastic. So great for them for doing that. And then another wonderful podcast that you can find everywhere as well, and on YouTube, they have a YouTube channel, is Here's Tom with the Weather. And that is actually a Zoom podcast. And they recently did an episode with Mario Hornbacher, but they've got
Nice.
quite a few episodes out there. And their YouTube channel is pretty nice. I'll put a link to the YouTube channel so you can check it out. I subscribed to it today, but I think I'm going to reach out to those guys as soon as I get caught up on some episodes to post. I'm going to reach out to the Here's Tom with the Weather people.
Cool.
And then, of course, there's Rebellion Dogs Radio, Joe's podcast, which is, I think Joe.
Just kidding.
If you haven't listened to that podcast, you really should, because it's the thing about it is he does a lot of, obviously, some prep work beforehand, or at least it seems that way, because it's very well put together. It's professional, he puts together written materials to go with it. It's just he puts a lot of work into those episodes. So what I guess I'm trying to say is it's high quality stuff. And interesting material too. So that's at Rebellion Dogs Radio, and I will go ahead and post that in there as well. So that's like really cool. And there might be some others out there that I don't know about that are kind of secular recovery type podcasts. I know that there must be, but I was just kind of looking at talking about some things, and that was what came to my mind. Josh says that Here's Tom with the Weather. Nice callback to Bill Hicks. Definitely checking that out. Good deal. All right. And Bree says, as soon as I get caught up, how appropriate. Oh, yes, appropriate for today's. Is that, are you making a smart, wise ass comment about today's topic? Yeah, I'll get around to it. Not tomorrow, I'll do it or whenever. Okay.
Right.
There you go. Well, Bree, that brings us right to the topic. I guess we should get right into it then. So, Angela, I guess I'll go ahead and read the reading, and I'll go ahead and put it up on screen here. And then we can just discuss it. And for everybody out there in YouTube land and Facebook land, you can participate either by chatting in the live chat or by calling us at 844-899-8278. And we love it when you do. So please jump in there. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen now. There we go. There you go. So there it is. I hope you guys can see that, but I'll read it for you, and then we'll have a little kind of a meeting about it. Okay, so now I need to find it. There it is. Okay, this is from July 16th. Confront the dark parts of yourself and work to banish them with illumination and forgiveness. Your willingness to wrestle with your demons will cause your angels to sing. Use the pain as fuel, as a reminder of your strength. And that is August Wilson, who lived from 1945 to 2005. And here's Joe's portion of that, what he wrote for the reading. Searching and fearless moral inventory is the original verbiage of 12-steppery. Many workbooks, articles, and new look inventory approaches have been adapted over the years to make the process more holistic and useful. Also of note, there are enough choices to stall us indefinitely. Always looking for that perfect way of doing it. A good thing to remember for a first-time step 4 adventurer, it won't be perfect. It will be a good start at honest self-appraisal. Most of us will find it so useful we will do it again sometime. Life is never a final draft. Each day involves a new edit and a new balance sheet. Perfectionism can lead to analysis paralysis, stalling us from getting started. Preparation is important. However, there comes a point when getting started is more important than more preparation. The other stall factor is that we are very likely afraid. We may feel like kids facing a real-life Dracula. The shame we feel will be silenced with a greater self-awareness and self-forgiveness. Our fears and deeds will not be the end of us. Am I suffering from procrastination on step 4 or any other crucial task? If so, is it possible that I'm making too big a deal out of it? Step 4 is an inventory that helps me gain perspective on what might be exaggerated strengths and weaknesses. I have to right size the importance of this process too. So there you go.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Angela, are you working well enough there to begin commenting on that, or do you want me to start on it?
Yeah. I'm not sure. No, I liked it.
Yeah.
It is something that that gets talked about a lot in meetings, is that, people stalling on their 4th step. I wasn't a staller. I kind of did the perfectionism route, where, I went and got the perfect notebook and the, perfect pens, and lined my notebook, every single page into the columns except the last 10 pages. And all of that. So I went that route for it. So I wasn't really afraid to do it. I wanted to, look at things. But there have been other, inventories hence that I have not wanted to do. or that, that this would have been a helpful tool to figure out some other things that were going on with me, and I, waited to do it, or put it off because I didn't want to look at the full picture. So I get that. And then I've worked with people who seem to go through similar things. But I suffer from the analysis paralysis in lots and lots of other ways, because that just seems to be part of my personality. Of I just love to gather information and to read and to listen to podcasts, and then I get excited by something else. So for me, a lot of it is procrastination of actually doing anything with all of the information that I've hoarded.
Yeah. My man Miller says that his procrastination had to do with reading ahead and knowing that he had to do step 5. So he was kind of afraid of step 5. And then Josh says that he was just trying to find the best format for his.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So for me, the time that I was doing it, I guess I was at 4 years of sobriety, and I was a big book fanatic. So there was only one format for me that would work. But what's interesting though, there actually were other people that did it a different way. There were 2 different ways of doing it. You could do it the big book way, in my group, that is. You could do it the big book way, or you could do it the 12 and 12 way. And the 12 and 12 way, the people would list the 12 deadly sins. Yeah, which I thought was kind of weird, but I chose not to do that. I did the chart thing from the big book, but I was kind of like wanting to do it exactly right. I was taking it pretty serious, and so I went around to everybody in my little group and I asked them, how they did it, and I got a different answer pretty much from everybody. So everybody had a different way of doing it. Even though it was kind of, this group all kind of fell in line with the big book, they all kind of did it a little bit different. I mean, there was no one really way, and everybody had kind of a slightly different experience with it. So I kind of followed the format as best I could from the big book. But there was a woman from a group actually that showed me how to kind of dissect a resentment. And from her, I learned from her how to do that. And that's basically what I did with step 4, is I dissected it the way that she taught me. And that's basically what I did, which was very similar to step how it was written in the big book, if not right on how they were doing it. But I think that I don't know if I don't know if it was really procrastination. When I finished that step, I thought to myself, that period of so-called procrastination before I actually did the work was probably useful, because I think that was part of it. I mean, there was a lot going on with me. A lot of thought was taking place before I actually did the work. I was taking it very serious. I was contemplating it and thinking about it, about wanting to do it right. And then when I was ready, I was ready. And when I did finally do it, it flowed out just in one night. I was able to get it all down.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And then the next day, did my 5th step. So
wow.
Yeah, and I'm glad I did it. It was actually turned out to be a good experience for me, and I still kind of use that that formula that I learned about dissecting a resentment in my regular, in life today. I use what I've learned from step 4 today, different problems that I run into in life. When things are really getting rough for me, I will fall back on that. And Pete says that since he's moved away from the big book and doing more into counseling, so he went into therapy and found better ways of doing that kind of stuff. And Joe says, upon my arrival here, I realized I decided to really do this thing. So after work, I went to a safe space and wrote. Boy, a lot of comments out there. And Pete says, it was helpful to get a better perspective on minor resentments, but did not deal with deep trauma. Yeah, good for you, Pete. That was smart. So you did that.
And I saw that Maya Miller put my procrastination on step 4 was, for the longest, was reading ahead and knowing I had to do step 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that happens, quite a bit for people. That's part of the dread. Sometimes it's the other steps, like not step 5 of telling another person,
Mhm.
but the idea of possibly having to make amends and stuff,
Mm.
and can be that as well. And I know several women that I've worked with that struggled on this, and it was later, after we talked about it some, figured out that they were concerned because in other meetings they had heard people talking about this step, and they didn't know what part they had in
Oh God, yes,
situations
yes.
like where they were abused
Yep.
from their childhood and stuff, and so they had this idea that they were going to have to, as a requirement for this step, to write in what their part was, because that's how a lot of them look. And so we had a discussion on on what that looks like, that's not what
No,
not, at least not in the way that I
no,
interpret things,
no. I mean, same here, same here,
should be happening. Yeah, that
same here.
and
But I
so
have heard people tell me, I've had people tell me that they've had sponsors that did that, that said, "You, what
yeah,
is was your part? Are you kidding me? When you're a little kid,
yeah,
when you're the victim, you don't have a
right,
part. Your part was
yeah.
that you were a victim." So,
And so that's one of the difficulties with a peer run organization
mhm.
like this, is that things are interpreted differently,
Yep,
and that there can be some real damage
yep,
because
yep,
of that.
yep. That
So
would be really difficult for sure. Bree says that she's glad she did her 4th step in my early sobriety. I am too. I thought 4 years at the time. I thought that was kind of late, but it was pretty early on, and I'm glad that I did too. I think the idea of revisiting the 4th step over and over again is detrimental. We alkies are professionals at beating ourselves up.
mm.
Yeah, I don't need to revisit the stuff that I inventoried the first time around. You know?
Yeah. I don't know that many people do that. I think
Mm-mm.
some people might, when they change sponsors. I know here around here that sometimes that's the case. That or the tradition in this area. Different areas have different traditions as well. That people will start over. My experience has been that usually that's if you're still in early recovery and you want to
Yeah.
go through the steps with your new sponsor. Um, but yeah, I've done 2 of them.
Hmm.
But I switched sponsors at about 3 years, and
Hmm.
I did get some benefit out of that, in that. I got 2 different styles
Yeah.
of doing it,
Yeah.
and the second one, was more thorough than the first one. The first one was more comprehensive, I guess.
Yeah.
That she had wanted me to write down every single thing that I could think about in all the different categories and stuff, and so it was a bit overwhelming, and it did take me a year. So when I heard you in one night, I'm like, well, one, you were younger when you got here.
Yeah.
When you got to the rooms. So yeah, I had a couple more decades on me, I think. And yeah, and then that was just kind of the tradition or the way that my first sponsor did it was much more of the kind of Al-Anon way of doing it,
Mm,
which encompasses a lot of stuff.
yeah.
And so yeah, so the second time I did it, it was broken down more into the different categories of resentments and fears and sex inventory and all of that
Hmm.
kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And so I got to see a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
And that was helpful. And since then, I've not gone through the entire steps and in that way. Occasionally I will do an inventory process on resentment and stuff, but usually it's just that one resentment or one situation that may be pulling up a whole lot of
Yeah.
anger and frustration, and so I write the things out just to help me to do it in an organized way. Occasionally just journaling helps, but I found, particularly with resentments or anger, that doing it in the inventory fashion really helps me get to the point of things. Whereas if I were just journaling on it, then I tend to just write out, a bunch of stuff, like an argument in my favor, like a persuasion speech or something like that.
Yeah, for me, if I journal, sometimes it's more like venting for me. I kind of have to get it all out, and I do a lot of that.
Sometimes you need to. Sometimes that's what's exactly needed. Yeah.
But then when I do it just like I did in the 4-step inventory process, it was more like an objective look at things and events and how I reacted to them. But the second one that I did 2 of them too, but I didn't go back like you, Angela. I did not go back to the very beginning. But what I did, I think I looked at the 10 years. Yeah, it was about 10 years. I think it was maybe a little more than 10 years that I've been in the program that I did the second one. And I just kind of did the previous time. And since my last one, something like that. And or whatever I needed to talk about. I mean, that's what I inventoried then. And I think it had to do more with relationships, because I think that's what I was dealing with in my life at the time, So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Lots of comments going on here.
I know. So Josh says that when it came to things that happened as a kid, my sponsor said, try to look at what you did with it after. Did you seek counseling, etc.? And he goes on to say that, someone else said that. Then, oh gosh. Oh yeah, Joe says his sponsor told him to seek professional help. And then my man Miller says, what I heard about what was your part for a victim was to first look at the offender as a sick person, and then my part was continuing to allow the trauma to control us. Now he says, not saying that's correct, but that's what I've heard in the rooms. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is where a sponsor needs to say, I'm not equipped. I'm not equipped to handle the trauma, and you need to go counseling, and then make them aware of some resources or something. That's
right.
I mean, that's something else there.
That's what I generally do, because as I've mentioned before, oftentimes the trauma will come up even before we get to this step. I've had people working on, step 1, and we do a little bit of writing out for that. Some ideas of, like when they first remember getting drunk, or, that kind of a thing. And so I had somebody realize a past trauma that they had repressed just from writing that out. And so we were able to get her, thinking about, what resources in the community she could seek out for counseling to work on that, and got that established, that, that those things are very important to work on, and that, that's not something that that we need to do, in the steps. Some of the step work that we do will, help in being able to look at some of that stuff, for a personal, and then with your counselor perspective. But yeah, that I'm not qualified to help with that. I could definitely empathize with that. But yeah, I think sometimes we get a little over our heads with this. And yeah, I really think that the majority of us that are in, the secular community are aware of that. And do things in a slightly different way. It's just it's good when we go to traditional meetings to kind of bring that up, that we're not professionals, and so this is an issue that should probably be addressed by professionals, and that that it's important that we seek out professionals, that that it's discussed by the founders, if that's important.
Yeah, it is.
At a lot of the meetings it is.
And not to like cast judgment, I guess, on people that are really religious and believe in the religious aspect, very very much so in the program, whatever. Maybe they look at it like they see it more like, you need to have your sin cleansed or whatever, and God is going to perform a miracle, and you just have to be open, whatever. I don't know what it is, but maybe that track, that wouldn't have worked for me even back then. And maybe that's why. What do I know what I'm talking about? Let me just say this: they're doing it wrong. That's all there is to it.
uh,
They're doing it
no,
wrong.
yeah, I think it's, I have empathy that I think a lot of them don't know that,
They don't know.
how we do the steps and how we help people with the steps is the way that we were taken through the steps. And, the
True.
majority of AA, does it, in a different way. There's, unfortunately been a very conservative wing thing happening for, since the early 90s, I think. And so it got turned into more of a militaristic type of way of doing the steps and adhering to the big book and, things like that. And so that is generally not helpful from a trauma, perspective. So yeah, and I do get, on how some people, it's very difficult. When I sent you my talk that I did, I don't know how many years ago now, that was one of the comments that somebody had made underneath it was, because I had mentioned about my own, trauma and how I learned to look at it at the fourth, and how it applied with the fourth step and such. And that, my view of it for myself now is that I look at, how it continues to affect me if it does, so how did that experience cause me to create, coping mechanisms that aren't helpful for me now?
Yeah.
And so, but I can see how somebody might construe that into victim blaming, which, was not, is not the way I see it at all. But I have heard, victim blaming in the rooms regarding this step, like that, people actually asking, women asking their sponsees, what were you wearing? Things like that, which, are most of us in the secular community would be like, I can't, what? But, at the time, this was a pretty young person, both in her recovery time and in age. And so she didn't know that she could actually, say, wait a minute, that's not appropriate. And so, so it's definitely something that is difficult for me about being a part of Alcoholics Anonymous, is that that's still something that seems to come up and is not widely spoken about in the rooms. I think as more areas are doing safety panels and safety discussions and things like that maybe it will be brought up a little bit more. But as of now, it doesn't, and it can be difficult to talk about it because some people have a hard time with any sort of criticism towards AA. Like you either are a part of it or you're not a part of it. And so so it can be a little bit frustrating for some of us that are in between.
I was kind of like that. I mean, the first time I ever heard someone say, and it was online, I started learning about the people. I started meeting people online that were taking the steps in a secular way, and a lot of them had no use for the steps. But the first time I heard someone just like really trash the steps, I was like in a state of shock. I couldn't believe what they were saying. Now it's like I've heard it so many times. I'm like, yeah, whatever, that's fine, cool, I get it. You don't have to do it. Christina wrote, she says that after a year of writing out resentments, I stopped working on the fourth step to seek trauma therapy. A year of writing resentments, that's a lot. Haven't come back around to the step yet. Still a lot more work to go through with a professional. Good for you, Christina.
Definitely. Yeah. And, and if you have a qualified professional and the therapeutic modality is working for you, then I'm one of the people that are like, maybe the steps isn't something that you need to do. And there's never been a requirement for being, in AA that you had to do the steps. Some people seem to think that and will, espouse that, but it's not. So if you're working with a, therapist, I think that that's the best, and I would, prefer that people did that, just because of all of the confusion about, how to handle some of these situations.
Yeah. Pete points out the irony about the professional help he mentioned in the big book. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then my man Miller, I totally agree. Counseling or outside professional help is always a better idea. Not everything can be fixed by the 12 steps. So yeah, I think we all pretty much in agreement on that. Now,
Yeah.
Joe Bob does point out that not all priests are creepy, and that's that's probably true. I'm not going to debate that. I'm sure that there are some that are very nice, and I don't know. I'm not going to make any comments. I don't know. What do I know? But I'm sure there are a lot of ones that are not creepy. And then Christine says, when hearing a fifth step, a good sponsor will realize when they are dealing with something that is beyond their skill level. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree,
definitely.
Christine. I totally agree. And then Joe says, yep, I tell them that I'm going in. I'm listening as a witness to their sobriety. I like that. A witness to their
Yeah.
sobriety.
Yeah, definitely. And, I've said before, and I do believe that, going through the steps with a sponsor is helpful for somebody newer in recovery that may not be able to afford outside help for whatever reason, or maybe they're, just still trying to explore, if they're an alcoholic, or if they have a substance use problem. And, and so some of this stuff is, there's a place for it. I just, think that the taking it as a, holding it in too high a regard can probably be a problem. And that's one of the things that I really like about, the secular community is that, we're like, well, if you want to do it, these are some ways that you can, and these are, how we talk in meetings. So it can be helpful for being a part of, to have gone through the steps so that you, can share on your experience with that particular step. But I don't think that it's essential, except for people who, attend the meeting and continue to attend and seem to still be very stuck after, a couple decades. Then, I probably would be like, well, you at least do the steps or something, because that can get frustrating in meetings.
Yeah. Bree says that she knows a priest that isn't creepy, but he rides an incumbent. I don't know what that is. I'm thinking it's one of those. Is that one of those
It's a
bicycles that
type
you
of
lay down?
bike. Yeah.
Okay, where
Yeah.
you like kind of lay down and
Yeah.
pedal. I think. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, a lot of great comments there. If you want to call in too, our number is 844-899-8278, and the lines are open, so you can call on in. So Angela, what about procrastination? Just in general, what's that all about? Do you procrastinate?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, that my main thing is a perfectionism, procrastination. Like, if I don't think that I can do it perfectly, then oftentimes I won't even start. And so yeah, I can put off a lot of things that way. I do think that that there is an upside of procrastination, though. You can look at it as pausing. And contemplating, I don't know if anybody has a way of, determining whether they're pausing, contemplating, or procrastinating. I guess it depends on what it is, that you are procrastinating about, whether or not that helps you define it. But yeah, there are tons of things that I would rather not do. Most things I would rather not do. So that they can definitely put off things that I don't like. I think that on some things I've started to turn it over from something that I just really don't want to do, to trying to look at what things, as I've mentioned a couple of times here, are beneficial to my future self. Like how would that benefit my future self? Am I being kind to my future self if I do this? And if I keep putting it off, is that going to make things more difficult for me in the future? And so that is one of the things I can use to figure out, whether or not this is actually a problem for me, or if taking more time to consider possibilities is the right thing for me. So whether it's procrastination or, pausing and doing consideration.
I think you're onto something there. I agree with you. I think that that's right. That there is sometimes some benefit. I mean, um, like I've been dealing with a lot of procrastination, and it has to do with feeling overwhelmed, somewhat depressed, and just not wanting to deal with things. So I just postpone stuff because I feel like I'm just too overwhelmed. I just don't want to deal with it. So I just say I'm gonna do it later or whatever. But that period of time, and I'm still kind of in it, but coming out of it, um, again, just kind of like when I was procrastinating about the fourth step. I mean, at some point, I began to do some thinking and questioning about what's going on with me and how I'm using my time and what do I need help with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, I was procrastinating. I was putting things off. I couldn't do stuff that I would normally do with joy and vigor. I was just like not into it. And I don't know, man. It was procrastination, but it was different than procrastinating, like, doing something I need to get done at work. This was kind of different kind of stuff. But yeah, because I'm still kind of coming out of that, Angela, and I'm getting some benefit from it. I mean, it's been honestly a period of growth for me, and really learning how to respect my time and set some boundaries.
Right. Right.
You know, so
Yeah. Yeah. And I like
yeah,
what Mayan Miller says here. They told me that not making a decision was a decision itself. So I
yeah,
said, okay, and
true.
left it hanging there.
There you
Well,
go,
yeah, it's true. Yep. Putting things
Christina.
off. Mm.
Perfectionism and executive dysfunction. I've got to take tasks like in 5 to 15 minute increments with scheduled rest to get them done, unless I'm really into it. Yeah.
Yeah, learning some organizational theory and some skills in that area has been helpful for me on different things. Like for my class this week, they sent the materials in a binder, a
Yeah.
pretty large binder,
Yeah. We
but
got
it
that
was
too.
kind of a flimsy binder. So I had to
Uh-huh.
put it into a bigger, more sturdy binder with kind of like rubberized,
If
sides
I
and
remember
things
right,
like
you
that.
kind of like binders, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a thing for binders. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I went to when I went to the last conference, I had my binder and it had all of my flight information and
Uh-huh.
all of the
Well, they're
conference
handy.
information and and all of the hotel information. And then I also had printed out all of the bus schedules nearby
Oh my
and all
goodness.
of the train routes and and maps of the location from the center when you get off the train to the hotel and and then they get highlighted and different pencils and I have like different flags and I have my highlighters that have one side that's the wide side and one side that's more for underlining and I utilized all of that stuff this week because part of it is a learning tool as well that I do have an attention deficit disorder without non-attentive type is what I believe the latest thing is
Oh.
and so all of that helps me to be able to actually focus on what I'm hearing because I have all of these different tools and I can pay attention to certain things and then I have it highlighted in ways that help me go back to it. I did have a problem in college where I just highlight almost the entire book of
Yeah, I
stuff,
know.
and so I've learned, how to highlight differently now,
Right.
and color code my highlighting and
Uh,
things like that. And so I have a big, organization kind of thing that I can get into. But, that can sometimes cause me to, procrastinate because sometimes I feel like I need to get it, perfect and
mhm.
get everything organized first before I can start something. So it can still come up.
Yeah. Bree thinks it's a little nerdy to be into binders, but Christina
Yeah.
says Of course, a better binder. I have a bookshelf specifically for binders.
Yes,
How
as
about
do
that?
we. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have binders, we have like all the inserts, we have different colored tabs, or we have lettered tabs, or we have numbered tabs. And then that we also have multiple label makers.
Oh my
So
God. Oh wow.
yeah, it's organization central here. And and a lot of that does come from from my partner who is not within the recovery community.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
My
So
world in a binder, just says my world
yeah,
in a binder. How about that?
yeah. Or the MB stands for mini binder. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can start that group, the mini binders group of secular AA.
Uh-huh.
Christina would join me, so
Yes,
I think we
she
should get it
would.
going.
She
Yeah.
would. We do have computers. Now, you're not spelling very well today, Bree. Computers? with, with cloud function and USB drives now. Yes, we do. We certainly
Yes, and I do have that as well. So yeah, so I have sections in my, I use Google, the Google network, and so I do have folders on my Google Drive. I have multiple
uh-huh.
Google Drives, of course, and then I have those broken down into different sections as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just really I prefer to use the paper base when I can, just because I like the tangible.
Mm-hmm.
So
So, what's a good way of getting out of it? Like, for me, I will sometimes procrastinate work stuff,
mhm,
which is not good because that's where I make my money, right? And I shouldn't be
yeah.
procrastinating that. And sometimes I have deadlines, I have to meet,
Mhm,
and I'll just push it right up to the end, and then it turns out that the product I give my boss isn't that great, or
mhm,
I'm just all stressed out trying to meet that deadline. I don't know what the answer is for me on that, other than for whatever reason I was telling you before we started going on air, is for whatever reason right now I'm on top of everything at work, man.
mhm,
I'm like Mr. Proactive, getting stuff to my boss before she even knows she wants it.
mhm.
It's like crazy.
Yeah. Well, is it like a certain time of year that you're doing certain stuff that you actually
Uh,
like better than other stuff?
well, my job is really boring. It's on monthly cycles. And I guess
Mm.
everybody's job is kind of like that. So at the end of the month, I have to do like monthly reporting, and I just absolutely hate it. And so
Ah.
I always kind of put it off, and put it off, and put it off. But, the month ends, and that's the deal. So anyway, I don't
Yeah.
know what the answer is, other than, I just have to, just maybe like what someone said here, just walk away and do little bites at a time,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know?
there's lots of different methods for working with stuff like that, and sometimes it's looking at what else is going on, in your life. Is there, something else that's taking up a lot of your mental space, your emotional and mental bandwidth, so it
Mm,
makes it difficult to, address these things at work. Um, yeah. Or is it that, that you're just, forgetting to use some of your tools, like you
yeah.
mentioned, of who can help me with this?
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
Sometimes I do get stuck in that of, if it's a situation where I feel like I need to do it myself,
Yeah.
or I should know the answer, or anything like that. Remembering, like, is there somebody who knows something about this that can help me? Is it a purely organizational thing? Is it that I'm not organized enough, or I need a different method to figure things out? Is it a GTD thing, a getting things done thing, or is it more of a Pomodoro method thing? Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
most of the time it's
I'm gonna try next
emotional.
time just doing it in little chunks. I'm gonna try and see if that helps me out a little bit. I think it would, because it's actually easier to do it that way. Because if I
Mhm,
put it off to the end and I have to pull an all-nighter or just work,
mhm.
at a it's not any good to do that either. So, but amazingly, I still have a job. I
Yeah,
get the stuff done,
yeah.
and people seem to take what I give them, and they're happy to get it. Although every time I do my month end reporting, my boss always sends it back to me to correct typos constantly. But this last time, because I'm on top of everything, there were no typos. It's just, I don't know. I'm
Wow.
just so proud of myself, Angela, that my work life is just so organized right now.
good. I'm glad to hear that.
Pete,
Congratulations.
thank you. Pete procrastinates on sending out my invoices, which is crazy. I know that's how you get paid, isn't it? I will do everything and anything except that, and my living depends on it. But I always do them
Wow.
eventually. Well, it's a pain in the ass putting together an invoice. I have to do this sometimes, and I can understand that. But that is how you get paid. So I hear you, my man Miller. I know that once I start something, I will not stop until it is done. So procrastination plays a part in me actually starting it because I know I can't stop or won't stop until it's finished. Okay. Oh,
That
we have a
makes
new
sense.
member. Welcome, VH Rocks. Oh, new member. How about that? Thank you so much. Oh, wonderful. VH Rocks is a new member of our YouTube channel, which means
Yeah.
that they're supporting the Beyond Belief Sobriety podcast. And there's a couple different ways
Woohoo.
of doing that, and it is that way. Wonderful, VH. Welcome. So nice to have you here. Joe wants to know, what is Humble Heathens? Humble Heathens. Well, that's the name of well, there's probably many of them, but there's a group
Yeah.
that, yeah, in Colorado, for one that I know of. And they meet, actually, I think they're in Boulder, not Boulder, but they're in some other town in Colorado. But one of the ladies from that group used to come to our Kansas City meeting when we were first starting, because her husband used to work in Kansas City for a lot, and she would have to stay, and she would stay out here with him. And she went to our meetings when we were first starting out. I can't remember what city she's from, but I remember it was like a really conservative city with a lot of churches in Colorado. So
Okay.
Trudy says, I start with small chunks, doing it the easiest. That's what I'm going to do. Doing the easiest task first in the morning, and then save the more difficult for the afternoon. I'm going to really do that. I like that. I think you guys have helped me out with that.
Yeah. Well, I actually generally do the harder stuff earlier, because actually in the afternoon, my brain starts to, it's like, no, thank you.
Same here.
And
I
so,
start deteriorating as the day goes on.
Right. So it really kind of depends on what it is.
Yeah. Why do you think we got hacked, Bree? We did not get hacked, I don't think. But there's a lot of hacking going on. There's no doubt about that.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Humble Heathens is an AA group, and I'm sure there's lots of them by that name. It's a kind of a nice name. Happy Heathens. Maybe that's the one that she was in. Happy Heathens, another one.
Yeah.
That is all of them except Denver, says Bree. all of them are conservative. Lots of churches.
I see.
Humble Heathens is one of 3 contribution amounts. Oh, that's right. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, God doggone it. Yes. So, yes, thank you so much, my man Miller. So I have different levels of contributions, and I can't even remember what they are. But yes, there's the Humble Heathens, different things like that, and different levels amounts of giving. And what you're really supposed to do as a podcaster who asks people to support the podcast, I'm supposed to put out like additional content for people at different levels of giving, and I'm really bad about doing that. But if I did that, I would probably get people say, oh yeah, thank you, I really appreciate that. I need to find something creative to do for the people who support the podcast that is not like takes a lot of extra work, that I can do that people would appreciate. I don't know what that would be, but if you guys have any ideas, throw them at me and I'll do that. Something that I can do special for people who support the podcast, that it isn't just a normal type thing. So like I know
I think self-care, John.
Self-care.
We all want you to do some self-care.
Self-care.
Yeah.
But you get stickers, I think. You get stickers.
That sounds like somebody avoiding self-care, doing some self-care.
Sign photos, stickers. Says. I don't think you want that. I don't know, but actually the Bree talked about t-shirts, and I have actually looked into that you can get these t-shirts or coffee cups or whatever and send out people something. I know I need to do something special because the people who support the podcast help out quite a bit. It helps out quite a bit. I do appreciate it. So thank you guys. And thank you for joining us at VH. It's nice to have you here. So we're coming down to the last couple of minutes. What anything else that we need to lay out there before we leave?
I don't think so. I think that,
Okay.
yeah,
We
we
pretty
kind
much
of
covered it.
covered procrastination, office supply addiction, and no.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, if y'all want to be entertained and see how I handle the anonymity thing without starting a fight, check out the thing on Sunday that I told you about, where I'll be talking about anonymity and YouTube. I think I know I'm going to handle. I'm going to talk about how I used to do it when I was good, and then I'm going to talk about
Mhm.
how I do it now when I'm bad.
I
So,
see. Well, going
and then I'm going to
with a
justify.
sinning theme that
I'm going to justify my bad ways in
I see.
a way that hopefully people will understand. I guess I don't know. So anyway, everybody, I think that will do it. Thank you. Lopsided triangle. That's right, Joe. Lopsided triangle, and that's at 8:00 p.m. Pacific time. I would love a Beyond Belief Sobriety travel coffee mug. We'll look into that. Travel coffee mug. That would be so cool to come out with those and have people using them at the convention or something. Anyway, I'm getting crazy. Good night, everybody. Have a nice weekend if you can. I hope so. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye bye.